Thanks very much, Elisa. Thanks for including me, giving me the opportunity to join you today, and more importantly, thanks for what you and Ed, Bill, Fred, all of these general and flag officers are doing to raise awareness and remind Americans how important it is not to let our values decline. It seems so fundamental that humane treatment of prisoners, engaging an enemy with respect, ought to be norms that everyone respects and endorses and practices. But it isn't. And unless commanders, civilian officials, and indeed our school system and every American think hard about the nature of conflict, even in peacetime, and of what it says about us as individuals, to be more concerned about expressing our values, our sense of right and wrong, our respect for the other side, even though we may disagree. If we're to elevate human discourse and maintain a civilized standard of human behavior in the world, torture is prominent as a measure of a nation's identity, of its values, of its respect for human life and for the law of war. There are countless stories which these general officers could tell you about examples of torture and of its pointlessness and failure. There are good reasons for being quite clear of tolerating no torture, no practice, no near event, no even consideration of torture. To cite one or two, first of all, it doesn't work. Examples are replete in histories of warfare of what you get when you abuse people in terms of actionable intelligence. And it's very, very depressing. Torture people and they don't tell you much of usable intelligence. I was having dinner last night with Orson Swindle, a man who spent more than 5 years in the Hanoi Hilton, brutally treated and abused and broken, but in the process, providing huge amounts of information. He said, I told them the starting lineup for the Green Bay Packers, which they confused with my squadron mates on a ship. I went all the way back to my high school basketball team, most of the people in my Boy Scout troop, things that are really going to make a difference in warfare, right? I don't mean to be frivolous about that. The fact is that in terms of military actionable intelligence, torture just doesn't work. And I think beyond that, that what happens if a country allows itself to degenerate, and that's what it is, degeneracy. Practice torture, you invite anyone who you may go up against in the future to do the same thing to your soldiers and sailors, Marines, airmen. In short, you create a threat you didn't have to create, and you're going to suffer for it, pay a price. But I think beyond those kind of pragmatic matters of self-interest, it is vital that we think about what we stand for. What do we aspire to show the world as a model of values, of our sense of right and wrong, of America? And if we hope to spread our ideas and our values, we have to set a worthy example. Right now, it's sadly true that there's a great deal of anti-American sentiment throughout the world. And it isn't all related to this or that episode of callous treatment of an Abu Ghraib or something similar. But that says a lot about us. And if we have any apparent tolerance for torture, it's a giant statement, an awful statement about American values. In the years ahead, we're going to face an agenda in national security affairs more challenging than any in our history. The complexity of dealing with alien cultures and religions, radical Islamism, proliferation, traditional problems, Arab-Israeli dispute, competition for scarce energy resources, the emergence of autocracies from Beijing to Moscow, a very, very challenging agenda. And from time to time, indeed all the time, we're going to need friends, allies, people who admire us, people willing to join us because they believe in what we stand for, and humane treatment of everyone in war and peace has to be fundamental. Human Rights First takes this mission very seriously. To maintain, sustain, and raise awareness throughout the American society that this is fundamental. This defines you. And if you transgress, if you abuse another human being, it says something about all of us. Continuing to carry that message is something every one of us has to do in peace and war. And human rights first, is doing that better than any NGO I've ever seen. Testimony to that is the fact that these general officers step up and are part of this. These are folks who have been in harm's way most of their lives. Well, I am honored to be with you. There's nothing more important than Americans defining themselves with the highest standard of respect for human life and humane treatment. I'm honored to be here, and I'm grateful for your including me. I applaud Human Rights First. Think hard about this. Talk about it in your communities. Thank you.